name is Ally Burnett, and this is my husband,
Andrew Burnett.
And this is our first podcast episode.
We promise it's going to get better.
Oh, God. We're going to start a new podcast. It's going to be called The Buyer's Box. This is going to be everywhere. You're going to be sick of us. We're going to be on Spotify. We're going to be on Google. We're going to be on Apple, everywhere, YouTube. So, Andrew, tell a little bit about our team, the team history, us.
All right. Just a little bit about us. I started in the real estate space several years ago, marketing for realtors. That led me into getting my real estate license. I previously worked with another team until I came to Realty One Group Dockside a couple of years ago and launched a team. At the time, our name was Burnett Investment Group. We've since then have rebranded to the Secure Home Finder team. And we currently have 15 agents and 5 support staff.
Great. Awesome. Andrew, tell a little bit about what you did before full-time real estate.
Yeah, so I grew up in the food and beverage industry from a young age. I worked in restaurants, quickly went into restaurant management. When I moved to Myrtle Beach, I initially moved here to open a food truck. That did not transpire or work out the way I thought it was going to. And I got into sales, and that led into marketing, which eventually led into real estate sales and marketing. You know, a big part of what I did, previous to being a licensed realtor is I actually marketed for realtors for listing appointments. And after getting my real estate license, I quickly switched over to working with buyers, specifically with online leads. What about you, Miss Ally?
He already knows my whole life story. Okay, so prior to being full-time in real estate, I was full-time in HOA. I worked for the largest HOA management company in North America. I was on their executive team here in South Carolina, and I had a huge territory. At one point, I had from Wilmington, North Carolina, all the way down to Hilton Head, South Carolina, and most of the state of South Carolina. And so there, I had to track down board members where they lived, convince them to trust me, convince them to meet with me, convince them to convince 4 other people to also meet with us, and then convince them to fire their management company, which they weren't even thinking about firing, and hiring us, shuffling around hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars. That was a tough sales process. I learned a lot through that. I worked on a team with awesome, great high-level executives there, and so that really gave me a lot of leadership experience. Prior to that, I worked at a high-rise oceanfront here in Myrtle Beach. We had 221 units that I managed. I was more or less director of revenue. I did a lot of jobs there. We had group sales, lots of events. Had to put a lot of things together from scratch, standard operating procedures, training the front desk, all those sorts of things. And so through our combination of skills, that's kind of how we have been working together to support our team and just kind of be great leaders to the community. And our focus with this podcast is to, from agents to agents, give some feedback and suggestions on how to convert buyer leads. And of course, seller leads happen in the meantime, but our main focus really is buyers. Today, we're going to be talking about where to find leads, how to get leads, what to do with them once you have them. This is going to be several parts, but I think the main thing is, who cares if you know how to convert the buyer if you can't get the buyer in front of you? So, Andrew, talk a little bit about how do you get the leads? Where do you store them? What are we doing? What are some things that a single agent could easily do?
Yeah, so we have a CRM called Follow Up Boss, which is where we store our leads. And connected to our CRM, we have a handful of websites. And how we get most of our leads is we drive traffic to those sites. And then once the lead looks at a couple pictures, a form will pop up asking for the name, number, and email. And then our team will reach out to the lead and try to help them with their real estate journey. That's kind of the high level of how most people get leads.
Back it up a little bit. Let's say I don't like Follow Up Boss. I don't want Follow Up Boss. Zillow's coming and they're destroying our lives. What are some other CRMs you can use?
So we actually have several. We just let them all flow into Follow Up Boss because it's been a good tool for us. But one of the platforms that we use is Real Geeks. It is an all-in-one. So what that means is it has a front-end website that displays houses, and on the back end there's a built-in CRM, which stands for Customer Relationship Management. and you are able to talk and text and email and send properties through there. Another tool that we actually have in our box right now is Sync. It's owned by the same company as Real Geeks. Again, they're an all-in-one. They have a website. They have a built back-end CRM. Another tool that we're currently using is Ylopo. Now, Ylopo is unique in the fact that it actually doesn't have a CRM. So they just focus on lead generation. They focus on lots of AI, like texting and calling. And you can pair that to a CRM. And then one of the last tools that we have in our toolbox is a all-in-one CRM called Lofty. And Lofty is typically given out by a lot of brokerages. And it's an all-in-one system that has a front-end website, has a back-end CRM. They do focus a lot on some AI technology and really just having one place to really work from, transaction management. We still use that in our team. We notice that it's a great place to send out additional property searches to some of our clients that maybe we haven't been able to connect with in an extended period of time. We find that it has a robust AI that is bubbling up and generating opportunities for our team.
Perfect. Okay. Which one is like the best in the box, ready to go? I'm a single agent.
Oh man, that's a tough question. So I think on this podcast, we're going to talk about the couple different ways that you can focus on lead generation. There's really two segments. So the first one that most agents will end up doing first and foremost is typically PPC, which is pay per click. That's typically done on search engines like Google, also Bing. You can also run some ads on Facebook. And then the other caveat, or the other way that some people generate leads, is through SEO, which stands for search engine optimization. And it's really just dependent on what your goal is, really at the end of the day. I feel like most of our business at the current time is probably PPC. SEO is a very competitive, and it's a long-term game that will eventually generate some quote unquote free opportunities or free leads, but it's definitely not free to start. The other thing I will say, at least here in our market, is we have a lot of really big competition when it comes to SEO.
Yep.
So, and to really answer that question, I would probably say for an all-in-one platform that a single agent could pick up at a relatively inexpensive price would probably be Lofty. Some of the things that it has that some of the other platforms don't have is it does have a front end website. It has a very robust CRM on the back end, has lots of cool AI that they're all the time working on. And it also has an app. So,
Oh yeah, I like that.
yeah, some of these platforms that we have, they don't come with an app from launch. And, when we did get rid of Lofty for the time being, I noticed that a lot of our agents on the team really missed having access to that app. So that was something I was pretty excited to bring back. Was able to get a really great price through a third-party vendor for Lofty, which is something that we're actually looking at doing to be able to help other agents also.
Awesome. Thanks. So we find that there's typically three ways that buyer's agents are successful in real estate. The first way is sphere of influence, being that social media realtor. We're still working on that. I don't know if we've got it mastered yet, but that's kind of the first way. The second way is being the open house realtor. There are lots of ways to do that. There are lots of great things. We've had a couple open houses that were kind of crazy, food truck. We spent over $1,000 doing it. You can do open houses for free. Ultimately, at the end of the day, any business that you're running, you're either trading money for more money or time for money. We kind of feel like option 1 and 2, you're trading a lot of time for money, and sometimes there can be a smaller ratio of how many buyers you have or how serious that they may be. And the third way, I'm going to let Andrew talk a little bit about.
Yeah, so for the third way that we find is the most scalable is online leads. And earlier on, we kind of talked about a couple different ways that an agent can get those. Typically, your cheapest way to get into this would be PPC, which is pay-per-click leads. You could also get leads through a portal like Zillow or Realtor.com or OpCity. Typically, those leads are either going to come at a much higher cost per lead. The goal is typically that they have a little bit of a higher intent. Or, if it's not a cost per lead in some markets, it's, a percentage of the realtor's commission, upwards of like 40%.
Oof.
So we tend to focus on pay per click. That allows us to have a better return for our agents. Allows us to provide a better split for our team. Now, there is a skill behind that. So oftentimes, if you start running running an ad campaign with a lead provider or a CRM company, typically they're going to focus on broad search keywords, terms, and typically those types of leads are going to require a lot longer to nurture.
They have no loyalty, none.
I kind of call these leads the dreamers. So, on average, they're anywhere from 12 to 18 months to convert. Takes lots of conversations and texts and emails. And, it's a great way to get business for the future, which is great. The other way that we try to focus lots of our campaign dollars on is with long tail keywords. And what we've noticed is those buyers tend to be much, quicker to a purchase. And example of that for us here in our market would be, for a broad search keyword would be homes for sale Myrtle Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And, we tend to find those are the leads that don't know where they want to be in Myrtle Beach. Maybe they come here on vacation, clueless. They don't really know the area typically very well. And heck, we talk to, it's not that we don't get some of those leads, but, we talk to them all the time on the phone. They've been coming down here for 15, 20, 30 years, and they don't know the area very well.
Yeah.
They just know where they went on vacation.
They're curious.
Yeah. So I call them dreamers. And then, the example I use quite often is, someone that's searching something very long tail keyword. So, for example, homes for sale in Meridian Market Common. We we'll spend a lot of our dollars on that. We tend to find that person knows where they want to work or knows where they want to live, and they're much closer to a purchase. And the last thing I'll say about that is, lots of leads are sold by different lead providers, and lots of leads go on lots of different websites. And no matter how you spend that marketing dollar, obviously there's a skill to convert that to dollars, for you, the realtor, in your business at the end of the day.
Correct. Absolutely. So I think really is just figuring out, one, where are you going to put the leads once you have them? Two, how are you going to get the leads? And three, what type of leads are you looking for? Everybody's business model is a little bit different, and that's something that we're definitely going to dive into in some later episodes.